right?
Let's go, and we are back once again with a DeJanVu podcast. Of course, Michael, and today we are joined by.
Hello, Joe.
He is a
master student in sports journalism.
There you go. So his first appearance on the podcast.
Yeah. Now, not to mention the national correspondent for Croatia as well during the World Cup. I think let's get to it, right?
Yeah, let's go. So we're going to be looking at, obviously, reviewing the game today, as well as looking up to Croatia's upcoming matches with Canada, and we're going to just be looking at, as well as just talking about the whole of Group F, like looking at the permutations for what can happen in the rest of the game. So, Anutrad, what thoughts on the game? It wasn't great, but
I think this World Cup has seen numerous 0-0s, but the Croatia-Morocco game was, I don't want to say monotonous, but I think that perfectly describes it, because Croatia, now the entire team revolves around playing through the midfield of Modric, Brozovic and Kovacic. Yet they try controlling the tempo of a game when you don't really need to control the tempo in a tournament, especially like the World Cup, where it's so direct, right? You get 3 games, there are no draws, there are no penalties until you go through in advance.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's basically go for a goal, get it, and then if you want to control the tempo of the game to calm your nerves, it makes sense. But when you're 0-0, you need to take risks. You can't be so risk averse in the hopes of, okay, well, it's a 90-minute game, let's ease in, 45 minutes later, 60 minutes later, we'll enhance the tempo of the game, and then we can see where it goes from there. And I don't think that approach works.
No, I mean, especially we looked at the Morocco side and we said they're a good side. Like, they've got a lot of Hakimi, Ziyech. They've got dangerous players, but I think that Croatia, they were expected. I thought they'd come out and play a lot better. I think there were some questions, especially about age of some of the players. This is their last, Modric's last World Cup.
Right.
It's probably Perisic's last World Cup. You've got, Mandzukic already had his last World Cup, so you've got that kind of older squad, and I expect them to come out and this is their last dance, really. They've got to come out, and I think it's a big game against Canada, and now, just looking ahead quickly, Canada played really well against Belgium, and I wouldn't, sitting right here right now, I wouldn't fancy Canada to win that. I wouldn't fancy Croatia to win that, sorry.
Yeah, definitely not. When you watch the Canada-Belgium game, the Canadians were really proactive, right? They knew what they wanted. They outran the Belgians, they outplayed the Belgians. The Belgians couldn't play out the back, so every time they tried to build through the back, they would lose the ball trying to find Batshuayi or Hazard or De Bruyne. But the Canadians were really compact in their line, and they played a high line, right? Up until they got caught out. They were really imposing their will on the Belgians when they pleased. That's exactly how they got the penalty as well. Albeit that they missed it, they were still very proactive in their approach, because they knew that, okay, well, we're here to get a goal. Let's get a goal, and then we can figure out how to stay composed and, move into a defensive approach or just settle our nerves. But Croatia, if they go into the game against Canada the way they did against the Moroccans, I think they're in for a rough night.
Definitely, yeah. I think, and they need a result, which I think that could spur on something. I'm not counting Croatia out, and I think especially there's been so many weird results throughout this entire tournament. Saudi Arabia and Argentina. I think Japan, Germany. A bit less of a shock, but it was still a result you wouldn't expect.
Right.
And with all of that, I think that Croatia, they need to do something. I think, and I think they will. I think I don't know. I think Canada played really well. I think that's what is giving me I was quite hopeful about. I had Croatia down to win the group.
Right.
I know we were giving Croatia for the task and stuff, but looking at, they got to the final. I would not expect them to get back to the final, but I thought that they would do really well. This is
Yeah, so even the 2018 World Cup, they weren't favourites or anything, right? They were far from it. No one backed them to make the semis for the matter. But they went through the entire groups, round of 16, quarters, took on England in the semis,
Yeah.
and then they went through to the finals where I don't want to say they were just edged out because France were really good that night, but they still made it to the finals, and that
Yeah.
counts for something, right? Especially when you're considering that there were so many teams like Portugal, Argentina, Brazil, Belgium, and none of them made it to the finals except for them. So
100%, yeah.
it definitely speaks volumes about the squad they had. But coming in now, I think the level of talent every other country possesses, right, and the depth they have, you can't relax and just take it, easy. You need to be on the prowl for a goal.
Yeah.
Once you get that goal, you can then settle in. Or else it becomes difficult because now you're a game down and you just have 1 point.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the Morocco game as well, we saw Kramaric was getting isolated. They couldn't really get the ball to him, and if they did, there was no one there. Perisic, I think he's not really used to playing so high up the pitch anymore.
Yeah.
He's more of a left wing back at Spurs now, that sort of thing. And I think that as well, what was worrying is that Morocco were having such joy. I mean, obviously Hakimi's so great, but in the one-on-ones with the Croatian fullbacks, they couldn't hang with, and I think Morocco are a good side, but if you get further in the tournament, you're gonna face better teams than Morocco.
Definitely.
So, I think there's some definitely cause for concerns, but I mean, you'd say that about Canada as well. They played so well, but they lost. So I mean, looking forward to that game. They need a result more than Croatia do, really.
Yeah, I think that makes for a good argument as well, considering it's Canada's first World Cup. But
Yeah.
I think we just have to take into account the experience that the Croatians possess, and especially considering that they do have a former Ballon d'Or winner in Modric leading their side, right? So the standards are quite high, in the sense that the group also has Belgium in it. So you've got Belgium, Canada, Croatia, and Morocco. So it by any means it isn't a really it isn't an easy group to get through. So the challenge is out there. So considering that now you're a game down and you have 1 point, the ideal scenario is that you need to win both games going in. But again, this next game is Canada, who have really been brilliant against Belgium, and they were very unfortunate to miss out on the win because, the penalty was saved, and they weren't clinical enough to finish their chances.
Yeah, I know it's not really the game that we're reviewing, but just quickly, some of the reference decisions were very poor in that.
Right.
In that Canada Belgium game as well. I think they should have had at least one more penalty.
The Witsel tackle.
Yeah, and I mean there was one that I think this might have been the Witsel one when it was Hazard passed it back and it was given as offside. So
yeah. Definitely.
But I mean don't get me started on some of the some of the officiating has not been great, but it should be 2 good games. I mean everyone, Morocco, they're in it now, which makes it more exciting. I think if they had lost, you've lost to Croatia and you've got Belgium up next, they could have looked at it as that's it. But now they've got a point. They're really going to fight in that game against Belgium, and I think that makes it look like a really good game. If they win against Belgium, they'll have 4 points. They'll be they would be top of the group.
Yeah.
Depending on how the Croatia result went. So I think it's a really any of the 4 teams could go through, and I wouldn't be shocked, especially based on just kind of legacy and on paper when you're looking at the sides and on performances on the pitch as well.
Yeah, I mean the game against Canada, I think they need to switch up their tactics going in, because against Morocco they deployed Modric as a makeshift centre half while trying to build, which didn't make a lot. In a way, it makes sense because again, from the approach they went with, let's control the tempo of the game. So we drop him deep, let him collect, let him make his play. But what do you do when the opponents are really compact in their approach and they don't they don't allow you to essentially play through the middle? So dropping him deep isn't really the ideal solution because he's someone who can, receive between the lines, turn, create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And essentially, when you play in a tournament like the World Cup, where every chance matters, right? There is no room for error. So you've got to make the best out of of the hand you're dealt. So if you choose to use Modric as a makeshift centre half or as a CDM even for that matter, that won't win you games.
Yeah.
You may be able.
It's a bit weird tactically, especially since they got Brozovic as well. He's so good in that role,
Because if you want someone to carry the play, that's why you have Kovacic, right?
Exactly.
He specialises in picking it up in areas and dribbling it forward and then playing it off. But it makes no sense for you to use Modric in a position like that, especially when you have guys like Brozovic who can do the same work.
Exactly.
But they can't carry out the task that Modric can up front.
He doesn't have the creativity that Modric does. And it's like, if they get that right, I think, pound for pound, that midfielders, you would take it against anyone, really.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, top 3 midfielders, right?
Exactly. Modric is, he's just, different gravy. He's world class. I mean, Kovacic is, he's really starting to put it all together as well. Especially for Chelsea. And, I mean, Brozovic, he's Brozovic,
I mean, so I think, if they can alter their tactics going front, you might just be able to make the best of your attackers as well, because...
Yeah, I'd like to see him start Orsic in the next game, I think. Have some pace, I think, it's something different, especially when I was watching it in the first half, until he came on, really. Apart from Vlasic, you're looking and you're like, it's not a very dynamic front line. I mean, Kramaric is, he's kind of... he's basically a target man. He's not fully a target man, but that's kind of his role. And Perisic is, he's not got the pace, he's not got the legs he used to. He's more of a, I'll beat you, put the cross in.
Yeah, that's his role.
He's a different kind of winger.
Yeah.
And I think Orsic just gives you something different, just pure pace, pure and he's got really good finishing ability, I think.
Yeah, but there's no one attacker that you can, who distinguishes themselves from any other team, So when you take the midfield, for example, we can take the 3 collectively as a unit and say, okay, well, you match them up against any other midfield in the tournament, and they stand a very good chance. But if you take the forwards, as good as Kramaric, Perisic, and Vlasic are, they aren't you wouldn't cite them as world-class forwards. So you need to figure out a way to basically milk your midfield as much as you can to get the best out of them. Because that's your only way forward, You can use your forwards to attract space and drag defenders away, and essentially that should be your aim.
Yeah, that should be,
To make space for your midfielders who come in, make those late runs into the boxes, get them open, get Modric in. Because the game against Morocco, there was that one chance where he skied it, right about the crossbar.
Yeah.
But it was essentially what he does best. The ball floats into it, and he picks up the second ball.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, we have, Croatia, they weren't great. I think they deserved a bit of slack. But I did think that Gvardiol and Lovren worked very well as a centre-back partnership. You could look at that and, that's something that I think, going into games against better opponents, you would, you'd be happy with the performance they put in that first game. Yeah. They look good. They look a well-oiled machine. And I think that I was a bit worried, especially in the last podcast we did, they had a friendly against Saudi Arabia just before, and Gvardiol didn't play any minutes, and I
thought the game against Morocco, he had a face mask.
I hadn't heard anything about that.
Yeah, that's right. When I was
so it might have. I think it probably had something to do with that, but I was very worried that he just wasn't going to play. He was just.
I think he showed. I think he showed why he's a nailed-on starter. Right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, there's no way you could take him out now.
At 20. He's so progressive in his approach that even Lovren isn't as progressive in his approach to get the ball front, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's if he's the modern day centre back.
He picks out players in between lines, running to him, asking for it, and he isn't afraid because he knows even if someone gets in behind him, he'll be able to catch up with them with his pace.
100%. Yeah. Can't have him go to Chelsea. Can't happen.
I mean, that would be ideal for Chelsea as well, right?
Yeah.
A modern day centre half left-footed centre-back as well to cover up that left-hand space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they need to figure out a way to tune in their midfield and defense, because going in, it isn't going to become any more easier than it was.
Yeah.
You could have even considered that the Morocco game could have been a warm-up test to see how you feel, what the atmosphere feels like, the playing conditions, because again, Qatar isn't what they would have normally been used to, but considering that it is winter then, it wouldn't really be that hard. So the weather really can't play much of a factor, but again, you really don't have time to have feel-out games,
Sure, yeah, especially,
it's just 3 games and you either make it or you don't, because provided they don't win against Canada, they're out, essentially, right? Because you're left with 2 points.
Yeah.
That's if you draw. If you lose, you're left with 1 point, and no matter what you do against Belgium, it would depend entirely on the other fixture between Morocco and Canada.
You never,
And you can't bank on that, right?
Yeah, no, you can't at all. Right, I think we should, let's get into some predictions then.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, go on. Do you want to start off?
Oh, go for it.
Alright, I'll kick us off then. I mean, look at God. I'm one look you through why I think that. I mean, like, I personally, I think it's gonna be a 1-1 draw.
Yeah. I think that's a really good chance as well, right?
I think that if you're looking at it, before the tournament, I know Canada have got some quality players, especially like Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies. I know they've got that, but like, I just thought it's first World Cup. I thought they put in a good showing, but ultimately, like, they're the ones that would be bottom of the group. I thought. But they just looked so good against Belgium, and if they keep that up, I think they're going to cause Croatia problems. I think that Croatia, as much as they didn't look that good, I think they've got the experience. If any team has had like such a like a bad start, but they've got the experience to push through, and they've got the players that they've been there. They've been to multiple World Cups, and they know what it takes to do well in this tournament. So I think that having that experience, I think they will get a result. I don't think they'll lose. I think they've got too much experience, too much know-how. Like, maybe they don't so much have the talent anymore, but like they've still got it in there, And I think Croatia, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a listen as well, because that's a good point, because the game against Belgium, the goal that they conceded was because they played a high line, right? And then one loft ball over the top, and Batshuayi was in.
I mean, that's especially why I think Orchard should start as well, because he gives you that option. We know Canada are going to do that.
And I think if they can build up with Guardiola finding Kovacic or Modric, they have the quality to put that one ball over the top for Kramaric or Vlasic or even Perisic for that matter, right?
Yeah.
And that's all you need, because if you do have clinical finishers, or if you can find that ball over the top maybe at least twice, you're bound to put one behind in the net.
Of course, yeah. Anyway, what prediction time?
I think Croatia may just edge them. I think a Modric ball over the top to find Kramaric, or a second ball that falls to Modric or Kovacic, and they could maybe get one in. And then they would just be again controlling the tempo of the game, because that's what they excel at, right?
Yeah.
You've got Kovacic and Modric who are extremely press resistant. Like, you can't get the ball off them unless they like either slip up or something. They aren't gonna create any errors from their side of things. So they are extremely very good that way, right? Yeah. So I think Croatia pulls off, just edges them with maybe a 1-0 victory. Yeah.
1-0. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I don't see that's the other thing I think. Why I'm like not too the first game that I thought Croatia were gonna just play so much better. That's what I think that's what it is. Like, I don't see them getting more than one goal.
Yeah.
That's
why I think they just edge them out if they're lucky.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Right. I think before we wrap up, we should just have a quick look at kind of the permutations. Like, if depending on what results happen, kind of what would need to happen for Croatia to make it through. So, and my phone's just being a bit laggy here. Right, so I've got the group here. Obviously, Belgium are currently top. They got more goal difference. And then Croatia are in second. I think that's just on like ABC.
Yeah,
they've just got alphabet. Yeah. So they're in second, Morocco third, but obviously they're exactly the same. And then Canada are in fourth, but
Yeah, they
because
lost.
they lost, of course. So that, you know, if Croatia win, obviously best case scenario,
Yeah.
then they'll be on 4 points, and obviously depending on what happens with Belgium, Morocco, they either be first, like,
Yeah.
or it depends on what happens in the goal difference,
Yeah,
obviously.
so you're definitely right. So, but I think if Croatia do pick up a victory, they go right on top of the group.
Yeah.
But again, if Belgium pick up their victory as well, then I think Belgium and Croatia might take the third game.
Yeah, for Croatia's point of view, they almost want Belgium to win that match against Morocco. Then, like, you know, then all you've got, a draw against Belgium and you're both through, which I think is what everyone thought in the beginning. So I think, I mean, and like, but if Canada win, then, Croatia all of a sudden on 1 point, and you're looking like, it's going to be tough to get through that group now.
Because you'll have to win the game against Belgium with a high margin.
Yeah, and if Morocco then beat Belgium, then, that's going to be a big game. So I think kind of what we've worked out is whatever happens, the third game is going to be important.
Decisive, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a good game, which is what I hoped, because I was like in my prayer, I was like, I think that Croatia will just win the first two and that Belgium will win the first two, and then it's like no one's going to care about that. Like, it's just going to be
locked on teams who are bound to go through.
Yeah.
But
it's going to be who wants to win the group, depending on if there's an upset and Spain or Germany don't make it through, who's going to want to win, because maybe you play Japan, or who wants to be second because then Japan win the group. So it would just be for seeding at that point.
Yeah, I think best case scenario.
Hopefully, I think there's almost no way that game can't actually be for someone trying to qualify. So that will be exciting, because I want to watch a good game of football.
Yeah, and I think best case scenario for Croatia going in will be they need to aim for victories, because if you top the group, your chances of getting maybe a relatively easier opponent in the round of 16 is higher, right?
Yeah, especially with Japan beating Spain as well. Like if Germany lose to Spain and Japan get a point against Costa Rica, that Germany are out, and then it's like you're looking at you'd much rather play Japan in the next round than Germany. I mean, I think Japan are good, but they're not I wouldn't put them as challenging for this World Cup.
Yeah, and also considering the fact that Croatia have been in that spot before.
Exactly.
They know they have the mettle, and they know what it takes to even if the first 20 or the first half of football isn't favourable to us, we know how to pull through when the going gets tough. Japan haven't been in that situation, so So if Croatia, if you're ideally a Croatian, or you're a supporter of the team, you would be open for a couple of quick, decisive victories, so that your options of going ahead are favourable to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that
I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, that's about it. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Obviously, make sure to subscribe to the DeJanVu podcast channel, and give us a follow over on our Twitter and Instagram, which will be linked in the description.
Yeah, and we will be back after the Croatia-Canada game.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we'll have some goals to talk about next time.
This time at least.
Alright. Thank you very much
guys.
for listening, everyone. Peace.
And that was alright.